those gathered at the Circle Perilous, and to all the defenders of this broken land, welcome to episode 28 of Arakko Public Radio for the week of February 22nd. We are the Casual X-Men chat show where we chat everything happening in Marvel's Mutants every single week. I'm Rod, and this is the birthday boy, my one and only co-mega mutant, Keegan. Happy birthday, brother. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing good. I've spent most of my weekend playing Yakuza Like a Dragon, so I consider it a win.
Is the new one out, or is the new one coming out in a couple weeks?
Are you talking about what is it? Yakuza Ishin? Is that what you're talking about?
Maybe. Isn't there like a spin-off and an actual sequel to Like a Dragon both coming out this year? Or
I'm not sure. All I know about is right now all the ads are for the one that's actually a port of a much older game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm mixing. I just remember there was a bunch of game announcements after Like a Dragon, and I could have sworn there was a couple games coming out this year, but maybe I'm wrong.
There might be. I haven't gotten too up to date on it.
Well, your week and weekend sound better, sound more fun than mine have been. We got a new roof put on the house, and then I painted and rearranged some of the bedrooms to make a nursery for the twins that are on the way. And then I live in Northern California. We had our biggest snowstorm in years Thursday night heading into Friday, and my kid had a blast. It was his first time playing in snow, like in our own yard. We've gone Christmas tree hunting and stuff, but so it was really fun. But I had no power, and then no internet, and then one came back, and then the other came back for a little while, but was really slow. So this is gonna be a late episode. We're recording it Saturday night when usually it's already posted by Saturday morning. So if you have not seen our mea culpas already, we apologize, world, but you're getting an episode.
Hey, you know what? We made it happen through weather, so, I think it counts for something.
Yeah, through no rain, sleet, or snow, right? We're like the post office. We'll get there eventually. This week, we're talking about Immoral X-Men #1, Betsy, Braddock, Captain Britain #1, Sabretooth and the Exiles #4, and Deadpool #4. How about first, we talk about the horniest issue in a long time?
Yes, let's do that.
Immortal X-Men #1, written by Kieron, Gillen, drawn by Paco and Medina. We're still in year 10 of the sinisterized future. A resistance cell led by Nick Fury Jr. attempts to siege the Westchester complex, which is implied to be the X-Mansion, in New Essex, which is New York, and they all die at the hand of a Professor X mind blast. The sinister Xavier and sinister Emma Frost chat, showing us once again that they retained their core personalities while losing their moral compass. Xavier sheds a tear at needing to kill all these former heroes, and Emma's narration calls this new Xavier more of a wimp than the non-Sinister version. They debate if Mr. Sinister will submit after the warning they delivered at the ends of Sinister #1. Xavier also laments that Magneto's gone, so he can't gloat. Hope is worried about the next step, so she asks Emma to call a meeting of the Sinister Council, who now hold every meeting in a psychically projected room. And when Emma calls, it's like BDSM chairs that Kate vocally complains about. In a data page, Hope lays out the timeline she sees for the intergalactic threats that are coming to wipe them out. And by her math, there's no way they make it even 30 years. Meanwhile, Mr. Sinister is sipping tea at a cafe, upset that even in a future he handcrafted American tea still sucks. He heads into his second favorite base, since Orbis Stellaris stole his best back in Storm and the Brotherhood #1, via Storm and her crew, and vents to the only sounding board he could trust, a memoryless clone of himself. He reveals a failsafe to kill all of the clones at once, but it's in his top secret base, so it's gone. He decides that his only answer is to manually reinstate control through a gene update, and that Beast would totally help him do it. He kills his clone and sets off to kill Emma to initiate that plan. Luckily, or not, depending who you ask, she sleeps in diamond form and reveals that she keeps Mastermind all BDSM chained up in her bedroom and high on amphetamines to keep a psychic shield up for her at all times. He seems to enjoy it. Sinister escapes through an emergency portal, and the Immortal X-Men start a hunt across the globe. Emma finds him in the Westchester Complex base And she's in diamond form, swinging a chain, saying, "You can't hide from Mother." He uses a Banshee Cypher hybrid gun that takes off one of her arms, but she grows it back because she has, tattooed on her arm, a Logan patch. Sinister retaliates with his new Nasty Boys, which are all chimeras of the old Nasty Boys fused with Cyclops, which, bad choice, because as Emma narrates, no version of Cyclops can resist her, and so they all like fight over her instead, hoping to win her charms. As Emma prepares to kill Sinister, he reveals that he's got a path to victory. His latest chimera can have up to 5 powers in one body, and they alone can stop the invasions that are imminent. She makes Sinister beg for his life, and then, with him chained and collared, calls in the council to vote him back in as long as he remains useful. I'm surprised to say this. I wouldn't have guessed this before it started. This was kind of the weakest of the three so far for me.
Yeah, honestly, I'd have to agree. Like, it did a few things that were interesting and, good, but of
It,
the three, it definitely was the one that had me least interested.
it feels dumb to phrase it this way, but it kind of felt like filler by comparison to the first two.
Yeah, it really did. It was just like, oh, here's a fun little Emma story or something. I don't know, like
It was probably the sexiest Emma's ever been. Like it was pretty blatant, some of the like
yeah.
fetish ties there. It was interesting that they went there, but for moving the plot forward, it kind of ended where it began in a lot of ways. Like it was another attempt by Sinister to, oh, I'm gonna find a way out of this predicament, and then he doesn't get out of the predicament. And so, to me, for
Yeah.
being the last of the 10 years, it didn't really. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like the parts that were fun were fun. Like they
Yep.
worked where they needed to, but not enough actually happened to make me like go like, "Oh, this issue banged."
Yeah, it left a lot dangling for year 100 that like doesn't set up a 90-year time skip necessarily for me.
Yeah.
I did like some of the like little visual cues we got. Did you notice that Shaw in every shot is just on fire now because
Yeah.
he's a hell lord? Like that'd be pretty damn inconvenient. I wouldn't want to be on fire all the time.
I mean, yeah, it's probably really inconvenient. Even Johnny Storm can turn it off.
Magic is just in gray armor now. That was neat to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just, otherwise it's just kind of like, oh, yeah, that's fun. No matter what, Scott's genes are just too strongly attracted to Emma that it ruins everything else. Like, that was funny.
Yeah, and I mean we can jump to Chimera Watch because we're doing that every week. Kind of a bummer that all of the new Chimera this week essentially were just somebody fused with Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's what we got. We had the gun. Does the gun count since it was like technically a fuse of two power sets? Probably not. And then we had the Nasty Boys, which is Multiple Man, Hairbag, Ramrod, Slab, Ruckus, and Gorgeous George, who were all cool pulls. Like, had you even ever heard of them? Because they were kind of classic Sinister henchmen.
Most of them not really.
But compared to the stuff we got from like the Twisted Minds of Al Ewing and Cy Spurrier, kind of a letdown.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like the doing it with Nightcrawler is cool because you could do a lot of really cool visual stuff with
Yeah.
it. With Cyclops, it's not as interesting because it's like, oh, there's a visor.
Yeah, that's actually really. I didn't even think about that aspect of it. Well, and the Nightcrawler's one that fit the gimmick because it's about the Legion of the Night, whereas like there's not a Legion of Cyclops. It's just Essex has this weird fixation on him, and that's why he keeps using Scott's powers.
Mm-hmm.
And then for Chimera Watch, whether we want to count or not, we did get the visual tease of Rasputin 4. So
True.
we got some like confirmation she's on her way. So the data page that reveals the like whatever it is 7 locations that they're searching for Sinister. We know about the Westchester complex because that's where they end up, and there's that like great joke on the data page where it's the last one listed, and Emma puts in there like no one would be stupid enough to hide there, and then you turn the page and that's exactly where he was hiding. So it was a good visual gag. But the other ones, there was the Celestial Abyss, which is the area around where the progenitor's corpse was.
Mm-hmm.
So what else was there was Avengers Crater, which used to be Avengers Mountain. So it describes the celestial abyss as like a much larger area that's affected by the radiation or whatever. But I think it does bear mentioning that when they all separately went searching, it was Exodus and Hope that are sent to the celestial abyss. And I don't think it's a coincidence that that's where Mother Righteous was as of the end of Nightcrawlers. And we're talking about the two religion-based members of the Sinister Council. I think it would be really interesting to see 90 years from now if anything came from those two presumably meeting.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they'll give us something with that. You know, maybe that's setting up something interesting to happen that we'll see somehow, somewhere. I know it's a 90-year time skip, but
Well, all I can think about is the voice of change that Vox Ignis was throwing out last issue seemed to have an effect on former heroes, but not an effect on former villains. So maybe they can turn Hope and have like an insider on the council. Be
that would be
interesting to see.
nice. Yeah.
But okay, the other places they searched, a couple of them were just like, oh, Wakanda, oh, the capital of what is it, Doom? I don't remember the name of
Doomstop.
the city. Yeah, Doomstop. Because we know that they have Doom. But then we get the Bar Sinister with no name, which is just like apparently what the Bar with no name turns into. And
Mm-hmm.
then the Lemurian plants, which I could not figure out what the plants was a reference to. So Lemuria is where the Eternals live. Like it's their underwater one. I don't know if like Lemurian plants is a reference to something I did not catch. I googled it, could not find it, or if that is a seed being planted for like a future issue is going to reveal what he did to Lemuria. But it was such a specific name for them to give it. So I just want to point out, like I did notice. So if like 2 issues from now we find out he turned it into like a plant fortress or some weird shit.
I mean, that would be cool. Yeah, I had no idea what even. I was just like, okay. I
Yeah.
didn't think that one was a reference or anything.
Yeah.
I
So
did enjoy them referencing Sauron, though.
yeah, definitely that was neat. That was fun. Dark Beast is name dropped again.
Yeah.
So classic called shot, which I'll have to show you guys at some point. I have a basketball hoop hanging in my new shared office / playroom with my kid where we've been shooting hoops all day. So eventually I'll remember to have the ball with me and I'll actually call my shot and then shoot it. But called shot. Dark Beast was not a one-off reference when we saw it in Immortal. Since now it's been brought up again and the head is in the main base, I think we're gonna get Dark Beast actually being relevant somehow in the next 6 issues. 7,
I
with
mean,
7 issues left.
I would certainly hope so. At this point, like with how horribly villainous Beast has been, for Dark Beast to be a part of the conversation and not touch on that. I mean, it sounds like the kind of trash that Benjamin Percy would do, but everyone else is better than that. So I hope that they would touch it.
I think the actual like comedic move would be to somehow make Dark Beast heroic and
Yes,
do a true flip on it.
I would
All
love
right.
that.
We won't move completely on yet because I do want to like. Do we have any predictions for the 90-year time skip? Anything you're thinking? Any shots you want to call
Honestly,
there?
I don't have any shots to call at this point. Like, it has done some really weird things and then done some really expected things. So I'm just
Yeah.
kind of like, I don't even know at this point.
Well, the order gets switched up next month. We're starting with Nightcrawlers, so we got nothing since next month or next week. I'm bummed. We have a week of nothing. But then when we come back and we're hit with whatever the Night Legion is up to, I don't know that I've got any major predictions, but I will throw out there. No. I was gonna make a Orbis Stellaris like prediction, but that probably will get held off for Storm. So
Yeah.
I think Orbis Stellaris dies before we leave year 100, though.
You
So
think
just
so?
my general prediction is, I think we're gonna lose one of the imposters each cycle. So we lost Dr. Stasis here, and then eventually at the end of year 1000, it'll probably be only Sinister standing who comes back, and then we know the like 4 Sinisters book is the one shot coming out before the fall. So I could see. I think it comes down to him and Mother Righteous. Like those two
Yeah.
are clearly the major players, and I think it would be interesting if she's the one who forces the reset, and I think it would be interesting if he's the one that forces the reset. But that's my prediction: is heading into year 1000, there'll only be the 2 left standing.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that. I think that's a good call because they do seem like they are like the main two forces.
Which I love that Mother Righteous is becoming a bigger player
Yeah.
because she is the coolest.
Oh yeah.
Sabretooth and the Exiles #4. Written by Victor Lavalle and drawn by Leonard Kirk. It opens with Orcus Station 4 sending a distress call warning everyone to stay away. On board, Sabretooth's airship crew is looking at the dead Sabretooth clone from last issue. The crew wants more info, but Creed just wants revenge. In the ship, Nanny and Orphan Maker meet Hurd and Bab in the cafeteria, and Peter has a new super shiny suit. Nanny makes small talk with the kids, but Peter seems depressed and disconnected. They advise the kids to stay away from Krakoa. Sabretooth considers the dead clone, and apparently Third Eye believes it must have had some psychic powers of some sort, since they were able to bring the body back from the astral plane. We get another Inter-Orcus memo that quotes real-world oppression to inform their own cruel acts. This time it's Indian boarding schools here in America. Third Eye, Madison, and the nanny discuss the trip to Point Nemo and Station 4, while Barrington and her creation get sucked in by a hand into the station. Toad feels left out by the core group when they're discussing the kids and accuses them of being just like the Quiet Council. But he does tell them to come downstairs with him where Sabretooth is busy recruiting the kids to be his new team, his Exiles. The team's kind of in disbelief both that he'd recruit literal children and that they'd fall for his rhetoric knowing he's fucking Sabretooth. Back on deck, the same hand that grabbed Barrington grabbed Madison Jeffries and just rips him in half. And a flying vessel kidnaps Sabretooth, but before he's able to take any of the rest of them, the ship activates a force field. And inside, the rest of the team tries to take over, inspiring the kids without Sabretooth. Doesn't seem like it's going real well, but he's brought into Station 5, and he knows exactly who he's about to face. And honestly, so did we. His nemesis is revealed to be Graydon Creed, his son, who he had with Mystique, and behind him, he reveals a wall of severed Sabretooth heads. He claims that this one, the 616, is the last one that he needs, and that he's going to die tonight. First off, called that pretty early.
Oh yeah, you called that one a long time ago.
But I did not expect it would be Graydon Creed as a multiversal Sabretooth hunter. That was a pretty cool twist.
Multiversal dad hunter. Just
you'd think he'd start with your own. It seems weird. He literally went through the multiverse to allegedly every single Sabretooth who exists, which hard to believe also.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other, in the Infinite Marvel multiverse, there's no, I guess maybe they don't have an infinite multiverse. So we're going to get into another multiverse issue I have later. But actually, I'll bring it up now. I didn't see a fucking dinosaur Sabretooth. Did you? Did you see a reptile head up there?
No, I did not.
I didn't see a reptile head. I didn't see a Disney princess Sabretooth. I didn't see I don't know. There was only 9 Sabretooth heads. So if they're saying there's only 8 Victor Creeds in the multiverse, I don't know. I'm not happy with it.
That we could see,
That's true. We don't know how big the wall is.
It could be a large wall. We could be looking at a wall of Funkos kind of thing,
I'm just at least he's not an in the box collector. Box collectors. I'm gonna headcanon it for now as it was just braggadociousness, he's saying he got them all when really he just killed all the ones he could find, because that just makes more sense to me.
It does make more sense, yeah.
What do we think of Sabretooth as a charismatic leader?
It's interesting. It's interesting. I want to see more of it, kind of.
Yeah. I really liked the speech he gave, and I think it was kind of an interesting, dark mirror of Magneto's style of leadership.
I can see that.
It reminded me of him a lot, and it was really interesting to see. And at the same time, he's literally recruiting child soldiers, so maybe he's more of a Professor X. I don't know, but
the perfect marriage of the two styles.
Yeah,
comes from.
Would be really interesting as we wrap up. I wouldn't mind seeing him get an Exiles ongoing where he literally is a flawed but charismatic leader. It would be really cool to see.
It would be, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I would love to read that, especially if we just get more of this series in any way, shape, or form. Because now the two minis have really just surpassed my expectations.
They can't end this in just one more issue.
No.
Like Victor Lavalle needs to be allowed to keep going with this because the dynamics he's created, even the like random Toad being butthurt scene was really interesting. Lavalle just writes these characters really well. Melter going from really annoyed by Peter in the first issue to straight up protective of him now felt so natural, and yet Melter's a piece of shit, but we still could like believe that he made this transition from being super annoyed to legitimately caring. It was really cool.
I've really enjoyed all of the work that has been done in these two series.
The other thing that's been going since the beginning that I don't think we've talked enough about how cool it is the way that you've in every single issue used real world like instances of oppression to inform Graydon's like memos and like interpersonal communications to make it clear that he's not just a monster, but he is a monster studying past monsters. It's so sobering using those real world examples, and it gives this book a vibe none of the other X books have gotten close to when it comes to just how cruel Orcus is. But it's talked about them in a way that really reminds us, like, oh yeah, it really is fucked up how they're treating the mutants, because that's the fucked up thing we used to treat like our neighbors with.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a good point. Like, I really do like that, especially because all of the comics that I read are so divorced from any real world history. You know,
Yeah.
like they really don't reference it, even to the point of like it's a unexpected reference when we have like Professor X talking about putting in a kind of failsafe so that nuclear war will not occur. Right.
Yeah.
Even that it's a reference to the real world that like I wasn't expecting. So for the fact of it to be like such specific real examples every single issue, it really does. It ties it all up and it brings the point home stronger than ever.
Yeah. Give Lavalle all of the X books he wants. Just let that man keep writing.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if we can have Lavalle and Leah Williams writing ongoings in any X way, then I'm happy.
Or if their wheelhouse is these minis now, fine. But then by the time one ends, you solicit the next. So it's the equivalent of an ongoing. Lighter-hearted note, Point Nemo, that really is geographically the furthest point from any landmass on Earth.
Oh.
It's in the South Indian Ocean, not that far. I guess it is that far. It's 1,600 miles from any landmass. Do you know what we use Point Nemo for? Or Point Nemo?
I mean, just a guess is atomic weapons testing.
Oh no, that actually would be no, because we don't test them at all anymore. It probably at one point historically was, but what it's used for now is it's considered the safest place to land a spacecraft.
Is it really?
Because you've got this big target where you're definitely not going to hit anything. So we're constantly like satellites are constantly dropping at Point Nemo because it's you don't have to worry. You're not gonna like even if you go off course, you're not gonna go 1,600 miles off course.
See, and that was my exact thought process for that. It's like where they would have tested some of the atomic weapons because it's the furthest from any humanity.
Yeah, but I think usually you wanted like an island so you can see how it actually impacted. So, but maybe
that's fair.
So we don't really know the status of the Exiles other than Sabretooth in the eyes of Krakoa as a whole, because they're not supposed to have left the pit. So maybe Madison Jeffries is really gone because he might not be eligible for resurrection. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work, but
that's a really good point.
It's interesting that Sabretooth specifically is like, oh, it's the ugly and the deformed and the freaks who weren't welcome on Krakoa, because it kind of emphasizes one, like he's not technically being like there are plenty of weirdos and like very different looking mutants on Krakoa, so he's definitely putting a spin on his interpretation of the Krakoan rules. But there's an interesting parallel in what Krakoa stands for, like what they're attempting to do to give a safe place to hide from humanity, and Sabretooth is doing as a safe place, like separate from Krakoa, is kind of an interesting parallel that only makes sense if you buy into Sabretooth's BS, but it still stands out that his mission really does parallel the actual mission of the island.
Well, and also, like, to these kids that have never been to Krakoa, like, that has to make a lot of sense once he says it, because the representatives that you've ever seen of Krakoa are the X-Men, who are all very human,
Super sexy
mutants.
looking, yeah.
Yeah.
Which takes us back to the X-Men vote that I hadn't really thought about until someone else brought up. But, like, there really is a weird human-centric vibe to the core X-Men still, and they really reemphasize it every year when not a single candidate on the vote is non-human appearing
Yeah.
or human passing. And I hadn't really thought until you started talking about the kids just now, but, like, it's not like Krakoa was making a big push to save them from Orcus.
Yeah.
They really were forgotten until Sabretooth and the Exiles essentially stumbled on them. So it's completely fair to say, hey, Krakoa doesn't care about you, because they didn't.
I mean, Beast has publicly turned away refugees.
Yeah, that happened in a Ben Percy book, though, so we don't care about that.
That's very true. I'm just saying, like, it's there.
You're completely right. It is. It's right there in the open, and not always the best look.
It is a weird time in the world when I'm like, Sabretooth isn't wrong.
It's why I think Fall of X is gonna be more complex than a lot of people are thinking, because parts of the X universe deserve to fall. Parts of them deserve to fail.
I'm still holding out hope that it's more complex.
I think it will be more complex. I think they're doing a lot to reassure us that Krakoa is still gonna be there, like in subtle ways, because I think they know what a cash cow the Krakoan era is.
Oh yeah.
You could say what you will about Synergy, and you can say what you still say about it being inaccessible, but they have to realize the amount of the audience that feels compelled to read everything right now because of how tied together it is, and they'll be willing to drop a lot of books as soon as you no longer have this cohesive world that feels so separate from the Marvel Universe. Like, that's what makes Krakoa cool. Krakoa is essentially its own deal. And as soon as you move them back to the school and they just become another group of kids.
Look how quickly we're ready to drop Scarlet Witch or that Gambit mini or Extreme X-Men and put it into Around the Marvel Universe, because it doesn't have any bearing on the story.
We will get to something that I think will be controversial that I want to put in Around the Marvel Universe, but Betsy Braddock, Captain Britain #1, written by Tini Howard, drawn by Vasco Georgiev. It opens with Betsy on a tabloid talk show called Cross of Swords, X of Swords joke, where she's pitted against Shock Micromax, who suggests she doesn't deserve to be Captain Britain since she's not British enough and doesn't represent the country well. Before she can really defend herself, she's called by a member of the Captain Britain Corps who needs her help, Britannica Rex, the Captain Britain of Earth 99476. They arrive to her dinosaur-filled planet and help her defeat a Fury, and find out Britannica blames Betsy since her world fell apart when she left to help her in the last volume of Excalibur and Knights of X. They defeat the Fury, who's smaller but more powerful than the Sentinel-like ones they faced in Knights of X. A data page reveals that the computer analysis of the Fury shows that it is. It's almost identical to the original. So Brian, Betsy, and Rachel are in the basement of the Braddock mansion discussing the threat they pose, but then they're interrupted when the entire mansion, boom, is moved to Braddock Isle at Jamie's whim. After a short family meeting, as they run upstairs and Jamie's explaining to Brian's wife and daughter that, oh yeah, I did it, and we see both the British military and British press set up a barricade around the island. Betsy and Rachel decide to head for Otherworld to investigate the Fury situation, but they share another romantic kiss first. Micromax is captured by Morgan Le Fay, who reveals to British Prime Minister Ruben Brousseau her plan to create an alternate Captain Britain, but with hookers and blackjack. Betsy and Rachel visit the Everforge, where Betsy has a terse confrontation with their leader. After they surround Rachel and Betsy, they reveal a British flag, which apparently automatically indicates they're on the other side than Captain Britain, and they've sided with the dreaded Coven Akaba against her. Anyway, Rachel dumps some molten lava on them, and they fly away. We see Pete Wisdom, Betsy's dead then not dead friend from Excalibur, visit Braddock Manor on the island, where they discuss her status as an enemy of the state and the situation with the Furies before agreeing to get to it in the morning. Speaking of getting to it, we see Rachel and Betsy in bed discussing the incredibly difficult political position they find themselves in. Morgan Le Fay picks her next target, Captain Pratani, from what appears to be like a Bronze Age, not comic book Bronze Age, like the literal Bronze Age esque world. After a brief skirmish, more Furies arrive, revealing it was a trap. But they're met by an even larger Captain Britain Corps army. Morgan reveals her plan is to find a replacement from the existing Captain Britons to replace Betsy. So, first off, I'm gonna rant about a lot of like nitpicky stuff on this issue. It was really fun. I feel like this was a huge step up from how I felt about Knights of X. I think narrowing the cast was a great move.
Yeah, I had a lot more fun with this than I did with Knights of X.
Yeah, this was a ton of fun. That said, why would Morgan Le Fay want an alternate Betsy? Why would she go multiversal to replace her? Wouldn't it be easier to just find someone in Britain who was a good candidate? Who I don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I really, maybe just an excuse to have more Captain Britons.
I like the Captain Britain Corps.
Yeah.
Although we are headed into Rod's nitpick corner. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So why is there a T-Rex Captain Britain from Earth 99476, which appears in exactly 2 issues? That planet appears in this issue and appears in Excalibur 51 from 1992. The only 2 times we have seen Earth 99476. Well, just this past year, within the last 12 months, we met Spider-Rex, the T-Rex Peter Parker from Earth 66, which he was made purely to cash in on toys from the Spider-Verse movie. But explain to me why Marvel, this company that supposedly has an intricate map of all of their multiverse post-Secret Wars, needs 2 separate T-Rex based planets. Why wouldn't they just be from opposite sides of the same planet?
I don't know.
Okay, furthermore, the bigger question, why does Marvel have 2 dinosaur based planets and neither are as cool as the Jurassic League?
You know, it always feels like DC's other Earths are a little bit more planned out than whatever the hell Marvel does with their alternate universes. Like, it really does.
I cannot believe that the X-Men office and the Spider office couldn't get to be like, oh, you have a T-Rex main character? We have a T-Rex main character too. Let's make sure they're from the same fucking Earth. How is that not a thing?
It should be a thing. Like, I don't know. It should be a thing. It really should.
Rachel Summers is just called Oksani now?
Apparently.
Has that ever been referenced, like, that I didn't catch?
Well, if you didn't catch it, neither did I.
Okay, so that was, like, the name of the religion cult thing she was, like, the leader of in Days of Future Past. But I'm pretty confident that's never been her name before. And I feel like this is, like, the 4th time in the last couple months we've had a character just given a name between issues, and it's not referenced as a new name. It's just like, oh yeah, Talon's here. Oh, Oksani's here. They just have these names, and they're not going to bother showing us, like, oh, I decided this is my name now. It's just at the beginning of the next issue, they have a new name. It just seems weird.
It is, especially because it is really easy to put in a scene like they did with Fang, and where he's just like, "This is why I'm Fang now. I am Fang," and then everyone's like, "All right, Fang."
It also makes me wonder: is it like a MCU synergy thing that they feel the need to be giving these characters alternate code names all of a sudden? Or an X-Men 97 thing, maybe? Like, are we going to get animated versions of these characters now?
That's a good question. I don't know. Like, it's one of those things where it's always a thing I worry about, but I'm also always trying to, like, I don't want to try to blame MCU synergy on everything.
Sure.
You know, like, it seems like such an easy scapegoat, but so frequently it is the correct answer.
Well, I might go so far to say I'm not scapegoating anything. I don't mind any of the new names, really. I like Fang, I like Talon, I like Oksani. It just feels weird that we're suddenly getting all of these name shuffles
right
now. And it makes me think it probably is, now that I said it, X-Men 97. I bet you we're going to see all these characters show up there. And like when you're making a show for kids, you have to separate the Wolverines. You can't call them a Wolverine, whereas we could call them all Wolverine as comic book fans. but I could totally see it being a situation where they needed separate names for that. Oksani, maybe they just is there another Rachel in the cartoon or something? Maybe that they couldn't just call her Rachel. I don't know.
Maybe they just wanted to give her a cool name to put on toy packages or something.
That could be it. I don't know. Whatever it is, it doesn't make sense to me that they're not bothering to acknowledge it in book. That they're just like, oh yeah, that's Oksani now. Like, all right, I feel bad that pretty much all of our conversation about it has been me complaining about something each time. It's a weird vibe that the only Captain Britain book we've gotten in years is like full of anti-Britain imagery, right?
It is weird.
I don't mind that it's Captain Britain. She represents the real Britain versus the corrupt, manipulated prime minister, or whatever. Because like that's a huge portion of comic books are like anti-evil, corrupt government. That's totally cool.
Yeah.
It's odd to me though that like simply the villains revealing a British flag reveals that they've been bad guys all along. They're sided with the evil guys, and it's literally just the Union Jack. It's not like the Union Jack with a Coven Akaba logo on it or something. It's just literally the Union Jack.
No, I totally get that. It's interesting because it's not that crazy for Captain Britain to stand for it and not like the government, like because that's like how Captain America is. Right?
I was gonna say it's very parallel to Steve Rogers being anti the U.S. government a lot of the time.
Yeah, he's like, I don't represent the government, I represent the people and what America is supposed to be, and da 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 da.
But could you imagine the uproar if he's in like what he thinks is some allies base? Like he goes to Wakanda and he's like, "Hey, Black Panther, I really need your help." But then Black Panther reveals an American flag, and Captain America's like, "Oh no, that means you're the enemy!" And Captain America like runs away. I feel like that would get a lot of backlash.
Yeah, it would.
So it feels weird they could do that here.
Yeah, I don't know what makes it okay, but hey, we're gonna see.
That said, I want to be super clear. Even though every talking point I have said was against this book, I actually really loved it. I thought Tini Howard writes a really fun Betsy. She writes a really fun Rachel. Jamie was used sparingly enough here. I really enjoy him. Like I think Jamie Braddock's a really interesting character. I think they beat him like a dead horse in Excalibur to the point where I was annoyed by his presence. Whereas here, like it was a small enough dose, and he's not a core part of the plot. He's just a crazy uncle who moves the whole house. Like,
yeah, like I mean, so yeah, that's the thing with me, right? Is like I had fun reading this issue. I also didn't have a lot to say about it. Like it was a good time, and that's great. That's kind of how I felt about it.
That's totally fair. My biggest takeaway though was the dinosaur thing.
Yeah,
you can't have two dinosaur worlds that look identical, act identical. There's no point in them both existing.
I mean, as one of the biggest proponents for Jurassic League on comic book TikTok, I would expect you to have these kind of analysis about it too.
If you've not read Jurassic League and you follow this podcast, hit unsubscribe or go read the comic. Jurassic League is amazing. But I know I'm talking way too much about this. Let's say like there was millions of years of dinosaurs. Let's say you wanted to have a planet that was like, built in the Cretaceous period and a planet that was the Jurassic or something. But no, because they're both T-Rexes, which means they're representing the same era of dinosaurs even. It's the same.
Here's the thing. This is hot take. We don't need to worry about the different eras of dinosaurs. There was, and then there wasn't, and that's how the planets should work.
Oh, hard to disagree. I mean, okay. So there's more time between the first dinosaurs like plotting around, and the T-Rex showing up than there is between the T-Rex showing up and now. Like people don't realize how long the dinosaurs were like the preeminent thing out there, and they didn't overlap a lot. Like a lot of the dinosaurs we think of as like hanging out together never met. They never met each other.
Which means the dinosaurs had so much more time to get good, and yet they still didn't, and they're all dead. So therefore...
We already had a bag of picks almost in this week. This podcast is about to end this week. Written by Alyssa Wong, drawn by Martin Coccollo. It opens with Deadpool and Valentine Wong still having their showdown with Doc Ock and Poison Ivy. I mean the Harrower. But even with the Carnage limbs that are popped out of his back, helping, the Harrower's creations end up getting the upper hand. Deadpool's symbiote limbs are kept in check by the backpack he's wearing. but the Venus flytrap monster eats Deadpool. It damages the backpack. As soon as he breaks free, Lady Deathstrike attacks, and Valentine Wong has to push him out of the way, getting their arm cut off and revealing what appears to be Emma-style diamond form. The push fully breaks the backpack, and the carnage on Deadpool's back is set free and takes a form that basically looks like a giant spider with Deadpool like hanging off its butt. It calls Harrower Mommy, which is kind of a theme this week, and shows a general bloodlust while it rips Lady Deathstrike in half. It then digivolves into Cletus Cassidy for some reason. Harrower seems really, really pleased at this and disconnects like Deadpool's body and traps it in a flower, and they leave. Valentine wakes up, reveals that they're much more than a handler for the Atelier, and heals Lady Deathstrike's wounds. They set off to someone who can apparently get Valentine a new arm, and then they're gonna save Deadpool. It was another really fun issue.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I don't know that I'm as charmed by it as I was in the very beginning. Like, I feel like issue 1 and 2 charmed me a little more than 3 and 4 have, but I'm still enjoying it.
I would even go as far to say like 1, 2, and 3 were charming for me, and this is like the start of the fall off of that charm for me personally. So? Yeah.
The Carnage stuff. Are you? And this will get a little tangent from X-Men a little bit. Have you been keeping up with the Carnage ongoing at all?
Yeah, I'm a couple issues behind, but I've been keeping up with it mostly.
Okay, so I don't remember how many issues ago it was, but Rom V's Carnage, which is really a good book. I feel like it's nearing its end, but I think it's gonna be very tied into some of the symbiote stuff. But it had an issue that kind of had this detour where we found out that there was this haunted house that had basically the spirit of Cletus Cassidy, like punishing, torturing kids that showed up in the house.
Yeah.
And so it makes me really doubt this is the real Cletus getting reborn. It also doesn't really seem like that was set up at all in what Harrower was doing. Like, she got a remnant of the Carnage symbiote from... It was that Absolute Carnage?
What did a flashback? Absolute,
one of them, like yeah. Maximum Carnage, Absolute... One of the Carnage events, and had grown this new Carnage out of it, and somehow that turns into what we're supposed to believe is Cletus himself. So it's probably going to be a classic comic book, like, oh, it's a psychic imprint of him, and this is a new Cletus or something.
Yeah, or like it was rewritten Cletus from the Codex of the Clintar and da.
You know, we've been seeing the Codex stuff brought up in other books quite a bit, including this week's Carnage. So yeah, I could see it being but it makes me really wonder, like, how they're going to tie all of this stuff back together for Summer of Symbiotes, because there's the Red Goblin book, which is a remnant of Carnage that's like a baby Carnage offspring that's basically given Normie Osborn some powers. We've got this Carnage, we've got the Carnage we've got two Carnages in the Carnage book, kind of, because there's the symbiote that calls itself Cletus, and then there's Carnage. We've got Venom, we've got Venom's son Dylan running around as Codex. So there's a lot of stuff heading into the Summer Symbiotes. It's going to be interesting to see how it all ties together. And I'm really curious if Deadpool's really going to be a big part of that, or if it seems like a brand new Deadpool ongoing should move on from this to a second arc before it gets tied up in a giant symbiote thing.
I almost wonder, like, is this even just like a side story and it's not going to touch on it too much?
Maybe. Know? If so, it's kind of bad timing, though, because I feel like a lot of people are going to be getting real symbiote burnout with... Because we know of at least 2 symbiote-related crossovers and the Edge of Venomverse mini that's going to be like the equivalent to the Edge of Spider-Verse, where we just meet a bunch of different versions of Eddie Brock. I feel like people are going to get burned out on symbiotes fast.
Yeah, probably.
I really like Valentine Wong as a character. I don't really know where they're going with their power set, and like the fact that all mutants are welcome. There's a data page where Sage gives her analysis of like all mutants are welcome on Coccollo, but we should be scared of this one.
Yeah, I don't really know. Maybe it's because of like gene tampering stuff or something, but I don't know.
That seems to be the implication with like when their arm gets ripped off, they look like Emma Frost. Like that looks like Diamond Form to me was what I got from it. So
that's what it made me think of too.
I don't have a ton to say on it other than, like I said, this issue was a little less charming than the first 3 for me. I still like it better than any other Deadpool ongoing I've read.
It's better than a Percy book.
Oh, we'll get to next week. Oh, we'll get there. Anything else you want to say on Deadpool though?
I had a thought. Isn't there also a Deadpool Rex?
Was. I wonder what. And now I gotta
What
look. Which Earth?
what
Which Earth is it?
which Earth? Is it a third Earth? Is it one of the same Earths? That's a face that says it's a third planet for a third T-Rex Marvel superhero. That's what that face says right there.
All right. All right. Oh. Okay.
Uh-oh. Have we unpacked a can of worms?
You have unpacked a can of worms. So it is from what is named TRN 321 by the Marvel Wikia.
Okay.
So if you're wondering what the hell is a TRN, apparently that is a fandom-based thing where when they're not given a real Earth like by Marvel, an official name, they get these
Oh.
numbered designations. It most likely is a third Earth. Apparently, because it was a Deadpool comic, they didn't bother giving it a number.
Which, understandably.
So the Deadpool T-Rex could be from Britannica Rex's world. It could be from Spider Rex's world, or it could be a third. That's right, third Dinosaur Marvel world. Did you, Keegan, my friend, see Marvel announce their big summer universe-wide cataclysmic event?
I don't think I did yet.
We didn't get any details about it. We get details next week, but they announced the name and the basic premise. We are getting the Contest of Chaos. Let me read you. So they released new promotional artwork created by Brian Hitch for Contest of Chaos, a new saga launching in 2023. The image sees a number of iconic Marvel heroes, including Deadpool, Moon Knight, Captain America, Captain Marvel, and many more, fighting one another in a civil war manner for reasons that remain to be seen. Witness the corruption of absolute chaos in Contest of Chaos arriving in summer 2023. The publisher teased, while promising more details will follow at a later date. Creative team has not yet been announced. So this was announced at the big, it's a publication conference they had this week. DC announced theirs too. So it appears to be the major event because we know they're doing a lot of little events this summer, and they're doing the Ultimate Universe is probably coming back. So Marvel's very busy. But by all implications, this is the universe-wide one. I know we don't have much details on it, but I am so not ready for another hero-on-hero event. And there are a ton of X-Men in the promo art. It's very heavily implied that it's going to have implications that include the X-Men. It's got Wolverine in the classic brown and yellow on the cover. My vote is we don't checklist this one, and we should very much leave that in around the Marvel universe because I care about the X-Men. I do not care about whatever the hell this ends up being most likely.
Yeah, I mean, unless something comes out that it's like way good and important to our show, we don't need to checklist it.
I'm going to be dealing with newborn babies, and we'll probably be struggling to keep up with the actual X-Men by that point. So
yeah,
I would be very okay if we kick the can a little on that. We'll see. We'll see. We'll let the thing get announced. I was very beat down by because I'm excited about everything happening in the X-Men. I'm excited by a lot of I'm excited about some of what Summer Symbiotes looks like. I'm excited about the Captain America event. I was kind of excited that we weren't going to have a giant universe-wide event this year because it seemed like they were going to little events. I was even a little bit excited, or more than a little bit excited, because it's Hickman, but the Hickman bringing back the Ultimate Universe thing, that looks like fun. This was a bridge between this and DC's dumb event announcement of Night Terrors being, oh, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman have to deal with a mean demon. Like, that sounds terrible too. We're just being hit by terrible event after terrible event. So call me event fatigued, but we're probably not going to follow that one, I think.
And I'm okay with that.
Okay. Next week? All right, next week we have Rogue and Gambit #1, Stephanie Phillips and Carlos Gomez. So here's where it gets tricky. We all have clearly established Rod's not a Gambit fan. Rod don't like Gambit. But I do like Stephanie Phillips. So there's a lot of potential there. And then a book with zero potential. X-Force 38 by Benjamin Percy. And that's it.
Well, so it'll be an easy week.
Yeah. So I think what we'll do is we'll look for a guest that can maybe sell me on Gambit as a character, because
Yeah,
that'd be fun. This was a good week. I
it
enjoyed all
was.
4 books we read this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Like even the ones that weren't, what I was expecting them to be, were still good.
I'm nervous for next week. I feel like they should have put something good in there when we're not getting a Sins of Sinister book.
Yeah, I would agree. Damn.
All right. Anything else you want to say, my friend?
I believe that is all.
All right. That'll do it for us. Hey, do me a favor. If you've checked us out and for some reason you have not checked out our amazing sister show with our friend Owen, who to me is the best evidence that Captain Britain is right, down with Britain, I can think of, joined the two of us as a third host for a show where we just bring a pick about video games, one about comic books or books, and one about TV or movies every week, and we talk about it. We've got 2 episodes up now. Episode 3 will be out Tuesday. I've decided it's a Tuesday release, not a Monday release. I've been promoting it as a Monday show, but it gives me a little more time between the 2 shows to make sure it's edited and perfect. So it's going to be a Tuesday release from now on for Bag of Picks. If you go on Spotify and review us both on Arakko Public Radio and Bag of Picks, but especially on Bag of Picks because it is a brand new show, so it's not on the algorithm at all, you're doing us a huge favor. We have a Discord server. It is in the show notes. And make sure you like us, follow us everywhere. Nothing else. Tell a friend you think might enjoy it. I'm That Nerdy Papa Bear on all the socials. The birthday boy is Bulk Ranger on all of the socials. Until next time, go watch Bag of Picks.